All right, men, welcome to today's episode of Strong Men, Strong Marriages. When your wife says, I don't feel safe. So, if your wife's telling you this, it can be a really scary for guys to hear. We're doing this on Halloween. It's a scary thing to hear that your wife says she doesn't feel safe. It can activate a lot of feelings and actually make you behave in ways that seem even less safe for her. So, today we're going to talk about what she actually means and also how to respond when she does say something like this. So, my name is Mike Frazier, MD. I'm a psychiatrist and marriage coach, and I help high achieving Christian men have more intimate marriages. So, some wins from guys in my program, the Strong Men, Strong Marriages program. Guys are feeling that increased self worth and increased self esteem. Look, when your wife is talking bad about you, or saying she doesn't feel safe, or bringing up your past, it's easy to start feeling down about yourself. So, guys are able to get through that, look at themselves in a more positive way and increase that self-worth and self-esteem, which is so powerful. It's way more attractive to your wife for you to have a strong sense of self-worth than it is to be beating yourself up and calling yourself a loser and all that. Guys are managing their sexual urges well. A lot of guys come in, they've got issues with pornography, thinking about other women. Guys are able to manage that in really positive ways, direct that in great ways. Guys are having more mental, emotional, and sexual connections with their wife, increasing intimacy across all of those areas, which is super fun to see. Guys are also having increased quality of connection with God and being more aware of God's presence in their lives. That's one of my favorite compliments I get from guys is that when they come through the program, they feel closer to God as a result of it. There's nothing better than that. Guys are able to calm down their fears about their wife not caring. So a lot of us, we get in that mindset of, oh, my wife's doing this, she must not care, she must not really I must not really matter to her. So guys are able to chill that out, check their understanding, share where they're at, and create more intimacy instead of feeling fearful and needy and clingy, which is super fun to see that progress and creating more intimacy, which is what this is all about. For me, my wife and I have been doing a good job supporting each other, having teamwork. We had a fun date night this week. Yeah, things are going really well right now for us. It's been great. So right now, your wife is telling you that she doesn't feel safe. Okay, I don't feel safe with you. I'm not sure if the kids are safe with you, stuff like that. For a lot of guys, this is a very triggering word. I don't love the word trigger, but it does communicate this idea of something happens and you have an almost immediate emotional response. So a lot of guys, when they hear you're not safe, all of a sudden they're fired up, right? They feel angry, they feel defensive. Why? Because most men interpret this to mean that your wife doesn't feel physically safe. She's worried you're going to beat her up, hurt her physically, shake her, punch her, right? Or do something like that to the kids. That's how a lot of guys will go with it. And look, it's understandable. You fear an abuse accusation, you fear accusations of abusing the kids. You would never physically harm your wife or your kids. And so you get defensive, understandably. And so you start saying stuff like, look, I've never hurt you, I've never hit you, I've never threatened you. You can't say that you don't feel safe. That's not fair. They get really defensive because they're thinking, oh my gosh, my wife's calling me, a physical abuser, and I'm not. So they go into this mindset of trying to defend themselves against that. So the reason this doesn't really work is, for the most part, your wife doesn't really mean physical safety when she says she doesn't feel safe, for the most part. Obviously, if you have been physically abusive, that's a big problem, and get some help. There's a place called thehotline.org. You can go there, get some help if your anger has gotten to that point. But again, for the most part, wives are not so much feeling physically unsafe, but more emotionally unsafe and also mentally unsafe with you. So for emotional safety, what you want to ask yourself is, okay, do I do a good job listening to her when she speaks, or do I get defensive? So even this example of when she's saying, I don't feel safe with you, when you're like, what are you talking about? I've never hurt you. I would never hurt you physically. Okay, you're already getting defensive instead of listening to her, which actually is making her feel less emotionally safe when you do that. Okay. Also, another question is, when she's having an emotional reaction, when she's frustrated, when she's angry, when she's sad, do you get wrapped up in those emotions with her? Do you fire back with anger, or do you get depressed and make it about you when she's feeling sad and feel like, oh, now she's not going to have sex with me because she's feeling depressed? Are you very affected by her emotions, or can you stand strong? Because if you're really affected by her emotions, that's another way that she can not really feel very safe with you. Okay, what about your anger? Do you manage your temper, or do you lose your temper at her, or do you shut down? Do you just kind of pull away when you get mad, you stop having conversations, or do you fire back and you get mad at her? Okay, so if you're getting mad at her, or if you're just kind of holding it all in and not sharing anything, both of those feel emotionally unsafe to her, because she's like, man, what's this guy hiding? Or she's like, geez, I don't want to have him get so mad at me. Also, that said, if you do lose your temper at her, if you're yelling, screaming, throwing things, look, she probably is scared for her physical safety, even if you've never physically hurt her. When you're throwing stuff, yelling, screaming, like, you're probably bigger than her, you're probably stronger than her, you're definitely bigger and stronger than the kids. So it makes sense that she would feel fearful, physically fearful, even if you haven't crossed that line. If you're yelling, screaming, throwing things, it makes sense. She would say, man, like, I don't really feel safe with that behavior. I don't know when he might cross that line. Okay. So just understand that. So when she's saying I don't feel safe, even if you have not ever physically hurt her, if your temper gets really bad, maybe she is worried that you're going to physically hurt her. But it's probably more of this emotional safety, that you get defensive, or you get mad, or you shut down. More of that's probably what's going on. Or you're too wrapped up in her emotions. She's sad, you make it about you. You're like, oh, I must not be doing enough for you. And she's like, no, I just want to tell you I'm sad. So what you want to understand, the other thing is mental safety. So can she share something with you and have you actually try to understand it? Or do you kind of shut her down and start, making it about you and telling her why she's wrong? Okay, that's the other thing. Okay, if she doesn't feel safe to share her ideas and have them listened to by you, she doesn't feel mentally safe with you. She can't feel like, okay, I can share something with him. He's going to manage his emotions and actually listen and try to understand me. That's what we're going for. If she can't say that, if she can't say, hey, when I talk to my husband, he's going to listen, he's going to understand, he's not going to get defensive, he's not going to make it about him. Okay, that's what makes her feel safe. So if you're missing any of those things, if you can't really listen to her, if you can't really understand her, if you can't really manage your emotions, she's going to feel unsafe. She won't really want to share with you. It's going to shut down mental emotional intimacy. Communication won't be good. So what you need to do instead is just understand that she wants to feel emotionally and mentally safe. Physically too, but I'm assuming here that you guys are not being physically abusive to your wives. So, understand she wants to feel emotionally and mentally safe. She wants to know that you can manage your own emotions, okay? Again, if you lose your temper, she can't feel emotionally or physically safe. Too wrapped up in her emotions, like we talked about, okay? Right, and then that mental part, right? Knowing that you value her opinions and listen to her. So Stephen Covey talks about, in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, talks about understanding being like psychological air for a person. So if you don't give her understanding, she feels like she doesn't have air, which doesn't feel safe. Like, imagine if right now there were no air wherever you are, you would not feel safe. You'd want to get out, you want to break a window, you'd want to just get somewhere where there was air as soon as possible. It doesn't feel safe not to have air, for sure. So if you're not listening to her and helping her feel understood, she doesn't feel safe. Okay? If you talk over her, you get defensive, you don't listen to her, you tell her why she's wrong, she does not feel mentally safe. So if she's telling you, I don't feel safe, it's probably one of these things. Either emotionally she doesn't feel safe because you get too defensive, you get activated in your anger, you shut down, you get mad at her, you turn to escapes like pornography or whatever. All of that she's going to feel mentally or emotionally unsafe with. Losing your temper, all of that. So, and then mentally, if you're not listening to her, understanding her, she doesn't really feel safe. She doesn't feel like she can really talk to you. Okay, so it's more about that for the most part. So listen, if you can manage your emotions well and not get too wrapped up in her emotions and understand your wife, okay, she's going to start feeling safer mentally and emotionally with you. That's just the natural consequence. You manage your emotions, you don't get wrapped up in hers, you understand her, you get into her shoes, okay? She's going to feel safer. So when she says to you, I don't feel safe, I want you to see that as an invitation. Okay? It's an invitation to manage your own emotions and to try to understand her. So if she's like, look, I just don't feel safe with you, I just don't feel safe, instead of being like, what are you talking about? I've never hurt you, I'd never hurt you. which doesn't go anywhere, just makes her more defensive. And she's like, see, this is what I'm talking about. I don't feel safe. Instead, you're going to say, okay, hold on. She's telling me she doesn't feel safe. Probably that means, she feels like I don't try to understand her and I don't manage my emotions very well, or I get too wrapped up in her emotions. So you can just check in with her and say, hey, thank you for telling me that. I want to know how you're feeling that you don't feel safe. So a nice open-ended question could just be something like, can you tell me a little bit more? Like, what is it that doesn't feel safe? She might have a hard time putting her finger on it. She might just say, I don't know, I just don't get a good feeling around you. So that's where you can start asking some more of these questions. Well, hey, I learned some stuff on a podcast today. Is it more like an emotionally you don't feel safe because I lose my temper or get defensive sometimes? She'd be like, yeah, that's definitely part of it. Is it because I shut down when we have fights? Yeah, I don't really feel safe when you do that either. Or that, I've used pornography in the past. You can't really trust me. Does that make you feel unsafe? Yeah, that does make me feel unsafe. Okay. The other part of the safety is trust, right? Can she trust you to keep your word? If she can't, that erodes. She can't really feel safe if she can't trust you. Or if you said, oh yeah, I don't look at pornography, and then you do, that erodes trust, so she can't feel safe. She's like, what else are you lying about? Okay. So trust, right? And then managing your thoughts and emotions, being a man of your word. Okay. So again, she says she doesn't feel safe. Then you can say, well, I learned sometimes that means you don't feel like I really listen to you or understand you. Is that what you mean by you don't feel safe? Well, yeah, that is it. Probably what she'd say. Okay. So if she's saying I don't feel safe, use it as an opportunity. Think in terms of body, mind, heart, and spirit. You could even double check with her. Hey, physically, do you feel unsafe with me? And she'll probably say no. Like, okay, what about emotionally? Do you feel like you can share with me? Do you feel like I'll get defensive? Well, yeah, that's a big part of it. I don't feel safe that way. Do you feel like I manage my anger well? Well, no, I don't. Are you afraid that you can't really trust me because of stuff I've done? Yeah, that's a big part of it. So then you're understanding her, right? Do you feel like I don't take time to understand you? Yeah. So emotionally, mentally, even spiritually. Hey, spiritually, do you feel like you can tell me what you really think spiritually, or do you think I'm going to kind of just tell you what I think and tell you why you're wrong? Well, yeah, that's part of it too. So body, mind, heart, spirit, you can think in terms of those things. So again, she says I don't feel safe. Use that as an opportunity. Manage your emotions. Try to understand where she's coming from. Okay. So to do this, what do you need? You need certain skills. You need to be able to have self-worth to stand strong in yourself against the negative stuff she's saying about you. You also need to be able to evaluate and say, okay, like, how can I improve? I'm still good, and there are areas that I can improve on. Both, right? It's both those things. It's not I'm a loser and I have to get better. It's no, I'm a good, valuable man. I'm a Christian man. I'm saved through Christ, and I can do better. I can learn strengths and skills. I can build my strength. I can build my skill. Okay, so both those things are true. So you need to stand true in that. You need to have those mental and emotional boundaries. Say, okay, some of the stuff she's saying might not be true, but some of it might be. And being able to have those boundaries. Also, the emotional boundaries, not get too wrapped up in her emotions, but stand strong in yours. Okay, you need mental and emotional strength. Can I manage my high emotions in an effective way? Can I express myself well? Can I understand her well? Then you need those communication skills. Again, listen to understand, express yourself to be understood, get to win-wins. And then you need some intimacy skills if you want to turn these conflicts into more connection. Like there's a such thing as make-up sex, because when you get angry with each other, but you can repair after, it actually does create more intimacy. So you want to learn those skills and be able to do that. So come join us in Strong Men, Strong Marriages and learn how to do all of this. We'll help you learn all of it. Get that strong sense of self-worth, rebuild trust so she knows that you're a man of your word, that she knows you can manage your own thoughts and emotions so she can feel safe emotionally with you, that you're not going to freak out, okay, or get too wrapped up in her emotions. She's like, okay, yeah, this guy, he has a good handle on himself. Now I can start trusting him. Then you get good at that communication of listening to her, helping her feel understood. She's not just like, man, like I feel like I can tell this guy anything. He's really going to try to understand. He's not going to freak out or make it about him. Okay, now she starts feeling safe. She's not going to say anymore, I don't feel safe with you, once you build those skills. Then you start building that intimacy, connection, and you have those three pillars: trust, communication, intimacy. So if you want to build that, you want to build sexual, mental, emotional, spiritual intimacy with your wife, come join us in Strong Men, Strong Marriages. Visit strongmenstrongmarriages.com or click the link in the show notes. You'll fill out an application, and then we'll get back to you with your best next steps. All right, so stay strong, men. Again, visit strongmenstrongmarriages.com or click the link in the show notes, and we will see you there. Stay strong, men. See you next episode.